The NFL has finally returned. We had a lot of great matchup yesterday on the opening Sunday, and a game we'll get to later in the video with the Monday Night Football game. Let's go over what we witnessed in Week 1. So the opening game between the Kansas City Chiefs and Baltimore Ravens opened up the NFL season. A good back-and-forth game. Kansas City really didn't utilize Travis Kelce as much as I thought they would. Mahomes looked just as good as he always has. I'll tell you one thing right now. You know, them losing, a lot of people were saying about Patrick Mahomes and him losing Tyreek Hill was going to be an issue. Obviously, it wasn't because he won a Super Bowl since he was traded to Miami. But then they go out and get Xavier Worthy, who looks, I mean, no one's as fast as Tyreek Hill. That's a given. But Xavier Worthy has such off-the-block speed, and it's like you give this guy to Kansas City just to really just give them another weapon on offense, and he's going to fly, and he did fly. I was literally watching the game, and I said, wow, he's fast. And it just gives Kansas City another weapon for Mahomes to play with, and it's going to be exciting to watch them work with him this season and to see how Kansas City performs with him as a target for Mahomes. So I'll say this about the game. It was a good game, good back-and-forth game, and here's my take from it. Lamar Jackson cost this team the game. You know, you can say what you want about him, but, you know, obviously he's an MVP caliber quarterback, one of the best in the league. But my opinion on him, when it matters the most, down the stretch in games, in the playoffs, he just can't make that play to get his team over the hump. You know, the last couple plays of the game, they're in the red zone trying to go for the tie. And he overthrew a pass to Isaiah Likely, who had a great game, by the way. Much respect to Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina. Love the Chanticleers. So obviously overthrow to Isaiah Likely. Then the pass, I think that really solidified that the game was too much for Lamar to win. Was a pass where Zay Flowers was wide open and Lamar, Zay Flowers went to the right and he threw it to the left. And it was a complete misthrow by Lamar. And of course the final play, we all saw it a million times. Pass to Isaiah Likely, who got his feet in bounds. Initially, they called it a touchdown. And looking at it, like I said on Twitter, football really is a game of inches. And Isaiah Likely's foot was a couple inches out of the end zone, so the game was over. Kansas City ends up winning game 1. And Lamar, in his press conference, said he thought he scored, but obviously the replay said otherwise. And that is my take on this game. When it matters the most, Lamar Jackson cannot win the game that he needs to. I feel, again, I could be wrong. I was wrong about a lot of games yesterday. I made my picks. But I don't think Lamar is going to be able to win a Super Bowl. I just don't see it. Is he not going to be a great quarterback? Of course he will be. He's an MVP caliber quarterback. Obviously, he's definitely the face of the franchise. He's one of the faces of the NFL. But when it comes to winning that big game, I just can't see it. Just can't. And also, I'll get to them a little later too, but you go out and get Derrick Henry from Tennessee and you don't use him as much as you should to. Lamar ran the ball more than Derrick Henry did, which is inexcusable. Derrick Henry completely changes the course of the game the way he runs. Physical, give him the ball 20. You should average 20 to 25 carries a game for a running back of his caliber, and they didn't get that. So the Chiefs win game 1. Obviously, everyone's chasing them this season to prevent the three-peat. We'll see if any team can do it. Right now, after Sunday, I don't see any team doing that. Maybe a team from the AFC South, but we'll get to that a little later. The other game, the next day, Friday, which is surprising, they had 2 games before the weekend games, was the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil. First time for the NFL to play from there. The game started kind of slow, honestly, but then it picked up pace. A lot of good score for both teams. The 2 takeaways from this game, obviously the biggest one, Jordan Love injured his MCL, out 3 to 6 weeks. It could have been a lot worse. You hear that term ACL, and you know it's done for the season. At least Jordan Love is out for only 3 to 6 weeks. A detrimental loss for the team for a good chunk of the time, but luckily he's not out for the whole season. But the fact that he had 3 to 6 weeks gives Green Bay not good position. But the only upside for this, for one player, is Malik Willis, the backup. It's an audition for him. It's an audition because he's never going to start in Green Bay. That's a given. He's going to be a backup. But he's auditioning now for a starting job. He could be traded to another team that could need him down the line. So this is his chance for a solid, 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 4 or 5 games before Love is healthy and back on the field to really show teams, hey, I have starting quarterback material. I have capabilities to start for a franchise. This is what Malik Willis needs to do in the games that Jordan Love is not playing. Obviously, Malik Willis, a phenomenal talent out of college, out of Liberty. Got drafted to Tennessee. Didn't really pan out for him. Tennessee dropped to 11th. He's a starter now. Malik Willis back up in Green Bay. We'll see if Malik Willis can show something of his talent while Jordan Love is out. And the other side, Philadelphia. I said it in my preview for the NFL. It wasn't a must-win, but it was as close as it needed to be as a must-win. Philadelphia, obviously, it was well documented how good they were last year and how they plummeted after starting 10-1 and finishing 11-6 and getting bounced from the playoffs last year. They go out and get Saquon Barkley from the Giants, who I will get to in a minute, and I have a lot to say about the Giants. They go out there and show the NFL what Saquon Barkley can do. He had 3 touchdowns receiving, rushing the ball. The Eagles did exactly what they needed to do. And let's come out there and pick up where they left off last year before they collapsed. And, Philadelphia has the best offensive line in football. I know they lost to Jason Kelsey hurts, but their offensive line is still great. And having Saquon Barkley back there able to run the ball, catch the ball in the backfield, that is what he can do. Why the Giants could not realize that, I do not know. But Philadelphia looks as good as they were last year before they fell to 11-6. And Saquon Barkley looks as good as he always has. And Philadelphia getting him from the Giants is a steal of the highest accord because, Saquon Barkley is a weapon that any team would be lucky to have. And the fact that Philadelphia has him with A.J. Brown back there, Devontae Smith, and now Saquon Barkley with Jalen Hurts, that offense looks as good as any team in the league. And Philadelphia had a nice Game 1 victory in Brazil to open up the season. All right, speaking of the Giants, they go out there yesterday, and it's opening game, but it's not just any opening game, no. It is the 100th anniversary of the team's inception. Way back when, in 1924, the New York Football Giants were born. And they've had legendary players throughout their history. Phil Simms, Eli Manning, Tiki Barber, Michael Strahan, Victor Cruz even, Lawrence Taylor. Great upon great legends. In fact, Eli Manning and Lawrence Taylor were there to ring in the 100th anniversary. And you could not have given a more pathetic performance. Now with the Vikings, no J.J. McCarthy was no problem. Sam Darnold did what he needed to do. He played very well yesterday. The Vikings won 28-6. Sam Darnold was able to play the plays well and looked really well under center for the Vikings. It's not going to get them a lot of wins this season, I don't think, but against the Giants, you don't have to do much, right? The Giants yesterday looked as pathetic on the field, playing and in uniform. They wore these old throwback jerseys. They looked atrocious in my opinion, but that's how they played on the field. There were 2 plays in particular that I remember looking at. One was the pick 6 by Daniel Jones. Now, to be fair, it was a good play by the defender. Daniel Jones threw a pick 6. It was a good play. He jumped the line and was able to pick up the pass right at the time of throw, which is very good, very tough play for a defender to do. He made it look easy, which it's not. Then the second interception is the one that I scratched my head on. So when Daniel Jones threw the football, there were 5 Viking defenders in the backfield. And when the ball reached the receiver, or tried to reach the receiver, there were 3 Vikings and 1 Giant. I don't care how good you are, you're not going to fit that into that window. As obviously it was picked off. So the Giants didn't even score a touchdown yesterday. Obviously the Giants look incredibly foolish to get rid of Saquon Barkley, who was your only viable weapon you had back there. And I feel sorry for Malik Neighbors, who was a great receiver in LSU, great receiver, and he's subject to this mediocrity. I mean, honestly, I think Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in the league. I saw passes hit the ground. I saw passes into just horrible coverage. And it's a shame for New York sports fans that root for this team, and nothing seems to go right for them. They had Saquon Barkley, and they let him go. You get Daniel Jones, who, let's be honest, the experiment hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. So I think, honestly, you're stuck with him until the end of the season, and then you have to go look for a quarterback elsewhere because it's not working. It's just not. With the Vikings, we'll see what happens with them. I was impressed with them, the way Sam Darnold handled himself yesterday, but we'll see what happens going forward when they play an actual team, because the Giants are an actual team. They're just, I mean, honestly, Again, you can't judge a team by week one standards. You can't judge a team by week one. However, I cannot see a situation where the Giants win one football game from what I saw yesterday. Again, things change. Players play better. Coaches coach up better. They do different schemes. I get that. But from what I saw yesterday, I cannot see the Giants winning one single game this season. I just can't see it. I just can't. I'm moving on to Cincinnati and New England. It was the first time in a long time for New England you'd have no Brady under center, no Belichick on the sidelines. This is a new team. It's Jared Mayo's team, who's the new head coach for New England. And Drake May, who they drafted, was actually on the sidelines as they went with the veteran Jacoby Brissett to play yesterday. Not a very offensive game yesterday for both teams. It was 16-10, New England was the final score. It just was a mistake-driven game for Cincinnati. I've said numerous times, and I'm not going to back away from it, how I feel about Joe Burrow's ability on the football field. I still think they are a Super Bowl team. I still think he's going to win MVP. But yesterday was not one of those days to really stand on that mountain and sing it high that he is what he is. He didn't throw a lot of yards. There were two plays where it just seemed like everything went wrong for them. The touchdown pass to Tanner Hudson, who was a tight end, and he was at the 2-yard line, and he fumbles the ball. It was going to be a touchdown, but it's picked up by New England. That was the first one that kind of just stopped their momentum. And another one, New England went to punt the ball, and it's fumbled, and New England recovers. It just seemed like mistake after mistake after mistake for Cincinnati, and they never got going. Another thing I'm going to say about this team, Cincinnati, you need to pay Jamar Chase. I think the outside noise affected that yesterday. Obviously, the big conversation was Jamar going to play? You didn't know if he was going to play. And it was a game-time decision, and he ended up playing. But the distraction around the team definitely probably affected them because Jamar, whether he play or won't he play, it affected the team, I think, on the field because they only scored 10 points. Joe Burrow scoring 10 points, it doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Joe Burrow, when he's on the field, it produces. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, right up there with Mahomes and Allen, I feel like. So yesterday was not really, I think, what you expect from this team this season. Obviously, a bad loss at home to an AFC opponent in New England, which honestly I don't think anyone thinks is going to be good at the end of the year. New England. I mean, that's the first one. They might get maybe 3 or 4 more. New England, from what I understand from them, what I see on the field. But Cincinnati just did not produce yesterday as well as they should have. It just seemed like they were not themselves. You know what I mean? It was 13-0 by the time Cincinnati scored any points. So it just seemed like they weren't really they really couldn't get going yesterday. Joe Burrow didn't even have 200 yards passing yesterday, which is not a good stat line for him. So, and I'll be honest, it just wasn't a good look for a top contending team in the AFC yesterday. They're supposed to be one of the top contending teams up there with Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, maybe Miami, and they didn't look the part yesterday. So they need to fix this Jamar Chase situation because this off-the-field stuff might affect them on the field. Again, one game does not a season make. I understand that. I said it before. But this was not a good look for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. And a healthy Joe Burrow, you really have to get going. And I think they will get going. I think it was a little hiccup yesterday with all the off-field stuff. If they stumble next week, maybe more concern there. But I think they'll be okay. So we move on to Pittsburgh and Atlanta. Now, both teams had new quarterbacks under center for them. One, Kirk Cousins for Atlanta, and Russell Wilson, if he was healthy, but he was not. He had a calf injury, so they turned to Justin Fields. This game yesterday was one of the interesting games, and I'll say why. Really not great quarterback play from either quarterback in a new situation. Justin Fields, no touchdowns but no interceptions, so I guess that's a good thing, I guess. And Kirk Cousins threw 1 touchdown but also 2 interceptions. I will never shy away from my feelings about Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. I just don't think he's that good. I'm sorry. I love Atlanta. I like Bijan Robinson. I like Kyle Pitts. I like Drake London. A plethora of weapons that any quarterback will be lucky to have. I just don't think Kirk Cousins really can utilize the weapons that he has around him. I just don't see it. He's kind of the same situation as Lamar, I think. Not ability-wise. I think Lamar is better than Kirk Cousins, obviously. But I think when it matters the most, he can't get the job done in the later stages of a game. He hasn't since he was in Washington, Minnesota, and now Atlanta. I just don't see it from them. And they're a team that people expect to win the NFC South. But we'll get to another team that might win the NFC South in a little bit. But, Atlanta has a lot of talent on their team. But can Kirk Cousins utilize it? Because if he cannot, there's a player behind him on the bench, played in college, that is itching to start, Michael Penix Jr. If Kirk Cousins can't produce, you'll be damn sure that Michael Penix will. Because he is waiting for the opportunity to get on the field. And if Kirk Cousins does not produce, they will not hesitate to pull him and start the rookie and see how he does. And if he does well, Kirk Cousins is not getting that job back. I know they paid him all that money, and I get how contracts work and stuff like that. I get all that. But if Michael Penix produces, Kirk Cousins might be looking elsewhere to play next year. Sorry. With Pittsburgh, Justin Fields, he played okay. And like I said, no any touchdowns, no interceptions too. But they only scored 18 points. And if you can figure that out, what's the easy way to get 18 points? Usually is field goals. So all they hit was 6 field goals from Chris Boswell. If you had Chris Boswell on your fantasy, kudos to you because you got a lot of points from him yesterday, hitting 6 field goals. So that's all they scored yesterday was 18 points off 6 field goals. Nothing more to note from this game other than Pittsburgh's defense was able to hold Atlanta to 10 points with all those weapons, which is a positive note. I don't think the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh is settled just yet. I think if Russell Wilson is healthy, he'll play in week 2, and then we'll have to reassess in week 3 who the really starter is if Russell is healthy to play. Because I don't think you saw definitively enough offense from Justin Fields to say, okay, he's the starter now over Russell. You didn't really get that yesterday. So we'll have to see what happens when Russell returns, if he plays better. If not, we may go back and forth. I don't know how that's going to work for Mike Tomlin. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I feel like you got to see what Russell can do on the field first before you make any decisions. But, hey, it's a team win. That's what you want to do. And a good defense to hold Atlanta to 10 points with all the weapons they have. But we'll see what happens week 2 with Pittsburgh if Russell does play, which I like to see him on the field. I'm a huge fan of Russell Wilson. That's no secret here. I'm obviously a Seahawks fan myself. But Atlanta, I'm intrigued by Atlanta. I'd like to see what they do. Because if Kirk Cousins continues to play this way, I don't see how he continues to start. Because you want to win. And you have a lot of weapons on that team. Pitts, London, Robinson, who huge fan of Bijan Robinson. I tried to get him in fantasy. I could not get him. Of course not. Of course I couldn't get Bijan Robinson. Someone stole him from me. But yeah, Atlanta is an exciting team to watch. But I want to see what happens off the field with them. If Michael Penix gets some reps, first team reps, see how they go with him. Could be interesting. All right, to Arizona and Buffalo. Now, if you were following this game early on, you might have been concerned that it was 17-3 Arizona. And there's a lot of talk in the offseason. Of course, Stephon Diggs leaving Buffalo to go to Houston. A lot of weapons that Josh Allen had previously are not there anymore. You weren't sure how this team was going to do. Obviously, people were saying, oh, it's going to be Miami and the Jets in the AFC East. You don't know about Buffalo, right? 17-3 Arizona's like an eye-opener. You're not, because Arizona's not one of the better teams. Obviously, Kyler Murray's regrets, but he played pretty well yesterday. Offensively, ran the football like he always does, and threw some good passes. But Buffalo found a way to win. Josh Allen did not turn the ball over, which is good for him. Obviously, the turnovers affected the team beforehand, but he played very efficiently, threw the ball very accurately yesterday, threw a couple touchdowns, and Buffalo was able to win, come back and win, 34-28. Yeah, Buffalo, that's a good win for them. That's a great. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you like to see that win because Josh Allen played the way. Like, Josh Allen is an MVP caliber player. I like Josh Allen. I think I agree with what he's been said about him. I think he's a little overrated, but I still think Josh Allen is good. I still think Josh Allen's good. I'm not saying he's bad. I just think he's overrated. And the turnovers is what brings him down for me. But yesterday, didn't turn the ball over once, which is what you want to see from him. If he can play like that, he can challenge the Kansas City. He can challenge the Cincinnati. He can challenge the Houstons. They'll be right there at the end if he can play like that. Because Josh Allen is as good as any quarterback in this league. If not, he's probably top 3, top 2. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. You want to switch Burrow and Allen? That's fine. But Mahomes is one, obviously. But Burrow and Allen are right there. Top 3. So Allen played great yesterday. And if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you got to be excited. But we'll see how that goes going forward. But they look good coming back against Arizona. Tennessee versus Chicago. Now, it was the big debut for a rookie quarterback and number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams out of USC. Now, he definitely looked like a rookie, and not in a good way. He has some things to work on, of course, as rookies do. He threw some passes. Now, to be fair, there were some passes he threw that were dropped, like there was one to Keenan Allen in the end zone he dropped, which is surprising for Keenan Allen to drop a pass. But some passes on some go routes where he overthrew the receivers. Some footwork was off, but that could be fixed. So it wasn't the debut I think Bears fans and him, Caleb Williams, were expecting, but they won the game because of their defense. Will Levis played pretty well in the beginning. It was 17-3, I believe. Yeah, they were down at the half, 17-3. And then the Bears flipped a switch, and they didn't allow a single point in the second half. There was a blocked punt returned by Mr. Simone Biles himself, Jonathan Owens, and star of Hard Knocks, Jonathan Owens. That made it 17-10. And then Chicago ended up, Will Levis was getting pressure in the backfield, and Will Levis tried to throw a pass away. It was picked off by Tyreek Stevenson. I want to give the proper name. Tyreek Stevenson of the defense, and they score a pick-6 touchdown. And there's a picture that my fiance sent me, and I saw on Twitter of Will Levis on the ground going like this. Like he couldn't believe what happened. So, and also it's funny, my future brother-in-law, her brother, jokes that says, Will Levis didn't get back on the bus. They left him in Chicago, which is not very nice, but yeah, it's not a good look. But at the end of the day, Caleb Williams won. That's what matters. He won the game. But his defense, that's what you want to see from a rookie quarterback in a situation like this, right? You have a rookie quarterback who's still learning. He's still trying to get his progressions. He's still trying to find his confidence in himself, right? But for him to have a defensive performance like that, a blocked punt, a pick-6, shutting down the offense in the second half, that's a great, great team to have around you. I think people are saying, and it's true, Caleb Williams entered a situation no rookie quarterback's ever entered. It's usually when you're a rookie quarterback and you're a number 1 pick, your team around you is not very good. Chicago's a good team. If the offense can catch up a little bit, I like this team a lot in the NFC North, especially with Green Bay quarterback being injured. So I like Chicago a lot after yesterday's performance. It looked bleak. It did look very bleak. It did. If you're bleak, you're bleak. But they look bleak. And the defense bailing him out is good for that team to have. Because Caleb will get there. He'll get there. He's a talented player. And they got great offensive players. They got Rome Odunze, they drafted Keenan Allen, Dawson Knox. They got a great team offensively. But the defense bailing him out, that's something you like to see. All right, moving on to Carolina and New Orleans. Now, with Carolina, they finished last year with the worst record in the league at 2-15. So obviously you think they would get some draft capital, get some better players. Well, they didn't. You would hope Bryce Young would play better a second season. Well, he did not. Bryce Young went 13 of 30, which is well below 50%, for 161 yards and 2 interceptions. Carolina only had 193 yards of total offense yesterday. And this shows how poorly Carolina played yesterday. There was a touchdown that Derek Carr threw, which you're told to never, ever do, is throw across your body because most of the time it's intercepted, right? Well, it was done for a touchdown. That shows how poorly Carolina played yesterday. It was just a bad situation. I mean, it was 30-3 New Orleans at halftime. 30-3 at half. At halftime, 30-3. And, you know, I'm a gamer myself. If you're playing Madden and it's 30-3, your teammates, your opponent sends you a friendly quit, like, hey, this game's over. Well, we should end it here. That's what New Orleans should have done. They should have sent Carolina a friendly quit. You're not coming back from this game. Go home. You actually know what? Go enjoy New Orleans while you're here. Then go back home. Because that's how they were playing yesterday. Like, they didn't want to be there. They wanted to go at the Big Easy, enjoy Bourbon Street, hang out, get some beads. Because their mind was somewhere else yesterday. It was just a sad performance yesterday by a team that shows no signs of resembling an actual football team. They don't. I'm sorry. It's been a while since Carolina was competitive. I mean, you'd hope Bryce Young gets it at some point, but it doesn't seem like he did yesterday. It doesn't seem like he did. Adam Thielen on the team, a veteran. He can look to him for guidance, but Bryce Young has to figure it out himself, and I don't know how I feel about this New Orleans team myself, but are they that good? I don't know. I think Carolina's just that bad. We'll see what happens with New Orleans going forward. I like Derek Carr. I like him. I like Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara. They have a good team, but I think mostly it was Carolina being just bad. I mean, the final score was 47-10. 47-10. Not good. Not good. So we're gonna get to probably the most important topic of the games yesterday. It was Jacksonville visiting Miami. Before the game began, wide receiver Tyreek Hill was caught speeding outside the stadium and was arrested by police. First of all, that sounds ridiculous to say. Arrested for speeding. Usually get a ticket and move on. And then for some reason the video surfaced that he was being put on the ground and handcuffed, which is egregious. And it needs to stop in this country because I don't want to get on a rant about this, but it's ridiculous. And before I get into the game, Tyreek Hill said something so poignant, so perfectly eloquated. He said, "What if I wasn't Tyreek Hill?" That's a scary thought. It's a scary thought. As far as the game is concerned, Jacksonville had a chance to put this game away. They're up 17-7, and they're in the Dolphins' red zone. And they hand the ball to running back Travis Etienne, who's about to score, and he fumbles the ball at the 2-yard line and is in the end zone for a touchback. If they score there, go up 24-7, that might be game. And I don't think Miami comes back from that. But they did. They tied it. They ended up tying the game, make it 17 apiece. And then field goal kicker Jason Sanders hits a field goal at the end of the game to win 20-17. So they came back from 17-7, scored 13 unanswered, and won the football game. Tua got his yards as he always does, threw 338 yards and one touchdown, which is to Tyreek Hill, which is an 80-yard touchdown. A nice play from Tua to Tyreek Hill. And yeah, just a great comeback victory for the Miami Dolphins in front of their home crowd. Miami's a team I look at, I think they can be better than they were. Close game against I don't know what Jacksonville's ceiling is with Trevor Lawrence. It's supposed to be good, but I don't know how I see them faring in their division, especially with Houston there. But Miami, if they can play the way they can with Waddle and Hill on the outside, with Tua throwing the ball for 340 yards a game, who's going to stop that offense? I don't know. But I'll wrap this game up with saying a very scary start to the day ended up a great team win for the Dolphins. That's the most important thing, is that they came together as a team to defend their teammate in a scary situation, and they came out with a victory in front of their home crowd, and that's good to have. And hopefully, Tyreek Hill. I'm just glad it wasn't anything worse, because it possibly could have been if it was somebody else. Now moving on to Indianapolis against Houston. Now Houston is one of the more exciting teams in the AFC this season with, of course, Rookie of the Year C.J. Stroud. They got Joe Mixon from Cincinnati, Stephon Diggs from Buffalo. They have a lot of talent around that team. And they look like the team to maybe challenge Kansas City this season. It's so exciting because you have your Kansas Cities, you have your Baltimores, you have your Buffaloes, you have Cincinnati, you have Miami. Those are kind of the main teams, I think, in the AFC. But then Houston's like right there. It's like, hey, we're still good too. And it's nice to see a team like Houston, because Houston's been a bad team for a long time. I mean, they had their years with obviously Andre Johnson and Matt Schaub, and I can't remember the name of the running back. Oh my goodness, it's escaping me. The running back for Houston. It was really good. He did a celebration, I can't remember his name. I apologize. But that's when they had that really good team, right? And obviously J.J. Watt, of course. And it's been a while since this team has been really like a team that you can see winning something. And they look like they can. They looked good yesterday, really good. C.J. Stroud threw for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He looked as good as he always did last year, even better. Joe Mixon, this dude ran for over 159 yards and a touchdown on 30 carries. Baltimore, study this. This is how you utilize a new running back. They did what you're supposed to do with a running back of that caliber. Joe Mixon's a great running back. He was a great running back in Cincinnati. Really good passing out of the backfield with Joe Burrow. Now he's with C.J. Stroud in Houston. They ran with 30 times for 159 yards. Had a touchdown on the day. You want to run the ball so you can control the clock and take pressure off your quarterback. That's what running the football does. And the fact that Baltimore could figure that out with Derrick Henry is ridiculous. So you got Derrick Henry to take the pressure off Lamar Jackson, not add to it. But I like this Houston team a lot. I'm hoping they make a deep run in the playoffs. If they are at the end, I like to see them, Cincinnati, maybe. You know what? That's best case scenario. Houston and Cincinnati AFC Championship. I'd love to see that. I'd love it because no matter who wins, I'd be happy with. I'd be happy with Houston and Cincinnati. It'd be great. Knock out Kansas City. Somebody knock them out. But I'd love to see Houston, Cincinnati AFC Championship. I'd love to see that. That'd be great. Anthony Richardson came back after being out last season. He threw only 9 passes, but completed over 200 yards of passing. He had 2 touchdowns, but he also had an interception. They came close to winning the game. They scored a touchdown. It was 29 to 20, and Richard scored a rushing touchdown, fighting his way to the end zone. And then they just relied on their defense to stop Houston. It was 3rd and 11, so it looked like they might have got him off the field, but a really good pass from C.J. Stroud to Nico Collins. On 3rd and 11, a great catch. And then they ran the ball with Joe Mixon on the next 3rd down. They ended the game with the ball in their hands. So 29 to 27 was the final score there. Houston looks as formidable as any team in the AFC, in my opinion. I know it was close against Indianapolis. And week one, I'll keep saying week one does not define your season. But Houston looks as formidable as any team in the AFC, and they look like they're going to make some noise come January. I just like this team a lot. I'm looking forward to watching what they do in the 2024 season. Las Vegas and the Chargers. Raiders and Chargers. Now, it was a new regime for Jim Harbaugh. Comes over from college, again, after winning a national championship at Michigan, to come coach Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, of course, the Chargers are without big weapons. They lost to Austin Eckler, who went to Washington, and Keenan Allen went to Chicago. Now, yesterday wasn't really a game, I feel like, for Justin Herbert, it was a game that didn't really live up to his standards. Obviously, Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback, Justin Herbert, but didn't really throw the ball as much as you thought he would or have as a lot of yards as he would. Justin Herbert only threw for 144 yards and 1 touchdown, but they utilized their new running back, J.K. Dobbins, out of the backfield. He had 10 carries for 135 yards. Now, for you math people out there, that's 13.5 yards a carry. 13.5 yards a carry. That's almost a first down and a half every play. And he ran the football. But I'll say this. The Charger defense giving up only 10 points is really good. And I think Jim Harbaugh is going to get the most out of Justin Herbert. He didn't really need to do that yesterday. They ran the ball really well. I think that's what Harbaugh's going to do probably, is utilize the run. But I definitely, you could see Herbert getting his yards. He'll get his yards. He'll get his touchdowns. But for them to give up 10 points and run the ball like they did yesterday, that's a good sign if you're a Chargers fan to open up the season. It's good. Because Herbert didn't play that well, and you still won. So it only could go up from here, I think, for the Chargers. That's a really good win for them. And, they'll look to compete in the AFC West with Kansas City, as they always do, because I don't think Vegas is going to, and then I don't see Denver doing that either. So we'll see what happens when they play each other. It should be interesting. All right, that's going to be a good matchup. Harbaugh versus Andy Reid, coach versus coach. See how they scheme against each other. Obviously, 2 legendary coaches. Obviously, one from college, one from the pros, but it should be an interesting matchup when they play each other twice this season. So moving on to Washington versus Tampa Bay. Now, another key quarterback made his debut yesterday in Jaden Daniels, a Heisman Trophy winner from LSU a season ago. But what was on display yesterday was not his arm, it was his legs. Jaden Daniels, while he threw for 184 yards, he didn't have any touchdowns, but he also no interceptions as well. But he also ran the ball for 84 yards and a touchdown. I'll say one thing out of this game. I have high hopes. I'm still on the Washington Commanders bandwagon as a dark horse team. Again, I think Jaden Daniels will figure it. But he looked good yesterday. I just, obviously there's some hiccups here and there, but he didn't turn the ball over, which you want to see from a quarterback. He didn't have bad passing numbers, just not a lot. And he ran the ball effectively for 84 yards and a touchdown. But the thing out of this game, the biggest thing out of this game, this is Baker Mayfield's team. in a weak division, the AFC South. You don't know what to expect from Atlanta. You don't know what to expect from New Orleans. And you really much expect nothing from Carolina. This could be a division they could run away with. Because Baker Mayfield looked impressive yesterday. Baker threw for over 300 yards and nearly 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. No interceptions. Baker threw for nearly 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and no interceptions. And they put up 37 points on the Washington defense, which is not a good look, especially with you have a defensive coach in Dan Quinn on that team. And Bobby Wagner coming over from Seattle. It's poor Bobby. I'm sorry, Bobby. I love you, brother. I love Bobby. This is Baker's team. He's finally found a place where it's his team. Obviously, Cleveland was his team, and then they let him go. But I think he's found this is his team now. They believe in him. They trust him. And they're going to win with him. And like I said, in a division that there's no real clear-cut favorite, they could be a team that could get the playoffs. Look what they did last year. They took out Philadelphia. They beat them 32-9. Watch out for Tampa Bay. They got a great team. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield throwing the ball. You got to like this Tampa team. You got to like them. Moving on to Denver and Seattle played each other last year with Russell being... was it last year or 2 years ago? Russell's debut season was 2 years ago, I believe, with Denver. And Geno Smith, his famous speech. I wrote back that they wrote me off. I didn't write back though. So yesterday, Seattle wore the throwback jerseys from the early days of Seattle, the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. And can I just say, can this be a permanent fixture for this team? Because I love those jerseys. I really like the retro throwback. I like them a lot. Please make this a tradition that you guys do every year or every couple times a year. I love seeing them. They're great, great jerseys. Geno Smith didn't play great. I thought he played okay. He did throw one interception, which I watched the highlights from it. I didn't see any really Seahawks within a good 5 yards, but it was a bad interception. But they bounced back. That's what they do, this team. I'm never going to hide that I'm a Seahawks fan. I bleed blue and green. I love the Seahawks team. I've loved them for a long, long time. Went through days of Hasselbeck, Russell, Charlie Whitehurst. I don't like to talk about it. But I've rode with this team for a long time. And obviously the loss of Russell and the Legion of Boom team hurts. It still hurts to this day. It'll be a pain that's somewhere in my aorta that will never leave me. The pain that losing all those players does. And of course Pete Carroll too, not being on the sideline, chewing his gum, pumping his fist, acting like a kid when he's 60, 70 years old. I miss Pete. I love Pete. It's a new regime now with Mike McDonald coming over from Baltimore to be the head coach of the Seahawks. And, it was a back-and-forth game. Both teams kind of trying to figure things out early on. And it took a lot of momentum swings back and forth for each team to get going. Now, while Geno didn't play his best, I think the running game from Kenneth Walker was something that I loved. I love Seattle running the football. Obviously, Marshawn Lynch, obviously the greatest running back, I think. With Seattle minus, you could say Sean Alexander, but I like Marshawn's running style more. But Kenneth Walker played great yesterday. 20 carries, 103 yards. Really set the tone for the team with the way they ran the football yesterday. Geno had one touchdown pass to Zach Charbonnet, and they look good. I think as good as you can early on. I think this is a good win for them, scoring 26 points against Denver. Obviously, Denver. You know what they're gonna do this season. Obviously, Bo Nix did not look as good as he did in the preseason. He threw 2 interceptions, didn't throw the ball very well, a lot of incompletions. But Seattle was trailing 13-9, and then at halftime, and then this seems like Seattle's always a second half team. I always love Pete saying, "Can you win the game in the first quarter? No. Can you win the game in the second quarter? No. Can you win the game in the third? Can you win the game in the fourth quarter?" But they came back in the second half. It was 13-9. They scored 17 unanswered points, make it 26-13. And then Denver scored a touchdown, make it 26-20. And then Seattle was able to run out the clock and win the game 26-20. Final score from Seattle. I'm still kind of learning to love this team. I'm still kind of learning to love them. I'm still learning to adjust with no Russell Wilson. I'm starting to adjust with no Marshawn Lynch. I'm starting to adjust with no Richard Sherman and no Doug Baldwin and Jermaine Kearse. I'm still learning to adjust with these new players. So it's going to take me some time. But I still don't expect anything from them. And that's maybe a good thing. Like with Russell Wilson and the team they had, like Russell, Jermaine Kearse, Doug Baldwin, even when they had DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, entering the receiving core. You expected, with Russell Wilson at the helm, you expected Seattle to be a Super Bowl team every year with what they had. And when they didn't do that, you were disappointed. Now, with the team they have, I don't expect anything. If they go 10-7, make the playoffs, great. If they go 8-9, it's okay. I hope they don't do anything worse than that, but I don't expect anything. If they make the playoffs, great. But I'm just along for the ride. I like to see how Mike Macdonald does with his defense. They picked the ball off twice. Tariq Woolen, I like Tariq. Well, I like the defense they have. I think Mike Macdonald's going to get the best out of this defense. So, it's a good team win. Again, week 1, you don't know how teams are, but a good opening win to open the season is a great morale booster. And Seattle went out and did that. They were losing. Good job by Coach McDonald to get the opening win under his belt, his first time coaching the team. They rallied around him. Marshawn Lynch was on the sidelines for the game, which is great to see. A Seahawks legend. He's up for the Hall of Fame. Hope he gets in. But yeah, it was a good team win, and that's what we want to see. Everyone contributed. Running the ball. Defense played great. Geno played okay. Nothing bad, nothing great, but okay. And we'll see how they do. But I'm on board with this team this season. Hopefully, I'm just along for the ride. All right, the last game before Sunday Night Football was the Dallas Cowboys against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Now, yesterday, I made my picks, and I picked Cleveland. Boy, was I wrong. Before the game, Dak Prescott got his deal done. 4 years, $240 million. That's $60 million a year if you're keeping score. 60, not 6, not 16, 6-0. It's a lot of money. Now, did Dak Prescott play like that yesterday? Not really, but they really didn't have to. Nothing really offensively stood out to me from them. Dak did have one touchdown to Brandon Cooks. He had the one touchdown he passed to Brandon Cooks. And I believe Ezekiel Elliott had a touchdown as well. He did. Ezekiel had a touchdown too. But Dallas just kind of did everything on every facet of the game. Dallas had a 60-yard punt return for a touchdown. The defense just made Deshaun Watson look scared and uncomfortable. And the more I think Dallas beating Cleveland the way that they did, is it really surprising? I guess from a defensive standpoint, because Cleveland's supposed to have one of the better defenses in the league. But it's more surprising with Cleveland. I mean, Dallas is elite. I'm sorry, Dallas is an elite team. Playoff-wise, I don't know yet. But regular season, Dallas is an elite team. Dak's good. CeeDee Lamb's good. They got Ezekiel Elliott back. They got a good defense with, oh my goodness. What's his name again? Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Micah Parsons on defense. That's embarrassing. Micah Parsons on defense. They're an elite team. But what you saw yesterday from the Cleveland Browns team is ridiculous. You went to grab a top 5 at the time quarterback from Houston in Deshaun Watson. And now he looks like bottom 5. Cleveland should get their money back. Here's my receipt. Because he looked awful yesterday. Just a lot of missed throws, a couple picks. It did not look like a shell of what he used to be in college or at Houston. I mean, honestly, only time will tell if either A, they go with Jameis Winston, or B, Deshaun Watson figures it out. Because yesterday, the Cleveland Browns were outcoached in every facet of the game. Offense, defense, special teams, they were outcoached completely. And in a division with AFC North teams that are looking to make noise in the playoffs, Pittsburgh won yesterday. Baltimore, they're going to get back, and so Cincinnati. Cleveland might be in deep trouble, and it's only week 1 because Deshaun Watson did not look good yesterday at all. All right, moving on to Sunday Night Football. It was the Los Angeles Rams visiting the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford returned to Detroit last night to play his old team. And Detroit, Detroit's an interesting team for me, and here's why. Because last year, because of coaching, I feel because of coaching, the Detroit Lions lost to the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game because of coaching. There were a lot of miscues on certain plays last year in that game that cost them. And they were winning at the time. We thought, this is going to happen. And it did not. So now it's a restart this season. with them. And they're obviously a team to look at in the NFC because NFC has maybe 3 or 4 teams you could see making it. Dallas, maybe Green Bay if they get healthy, Philadelphia, maybe Chicago, and then you look at, of course, Detroit, I feel like. And San Francisco, of course, too. San Francisco is probably that elite team in the NFC. But yeah, it was a game, a very exciting game last night. I went to overtime in the end. Detroit had a 17-3 lead, but then the Rams come roaring back and scoring 17 unanswered points to make it 20-17. You thought, Lions have a lot of situations in their franchise where they had a lead and they look like they're going to win, and then they get let down, right? And yesterday it kind of looked like that, but towards the end of the game they had a field goal to make it 20-20, and then the first possession, David Montgomery ran it in for a 1-yard touchdown to give the Lions the win, 26-20. With Jared Goff, he had 1 interception yesterday, but I think he'll improve as he does the season. It's early. I think he'll improve, but David Montgomery had over 100 yards rushing. Jameson Williams had over 100 yards receiving. The lead on their stars this season on offense: Goff, Williams, Montgomery, Laporta tight end, and of course Hutchinson on the defense. I think this team is going to look to get back to where they were before, and they think they expect to. I think they expect to. So a good win for Detroit at home on opening night, Sunday Night Football. A great win in front of their home crowd. And Detroit is one of those teams that I think now you expect them to be good, which is not used. They're not used to that, right? They're not used to being expected to be good, and they are now. So we'll see how they go going forward. But that is it for the games yesterday. My biggest takeaway: look out for Houston. If you're a Cincinnati fan, relax. If you're a Giants fan, I'm sorry. Moving on to tonight's game, the New York Jets take on the 49ers, which should be starting in a little while. Depends on when this video goes up. It's going to go up on Monday, not sure what time. Of course, the big question mark is how healthy and how much Aaron Rodgers is going to play tonight. He should be a full go, obviously, but can he last more than 4 plays? If you're a Jets fan, please, right? But the Jets looked like to be a team that you think would contend too, along with Kansas City and the like that I mentioned. And then on the other side, San Francisco, how will they go after Super Bowl loss? Will they have Super Bowl hangover? A lot of teams do. Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Brandon Ayuk, who they got back. What will they do this season? It's hard to get back to Super Bowl. Kansas City trying to get back to a third time to win 3 in a row. San Francisco trying to get back there to try to win one, the first time since 1995 or 6 or whatever it was. So it's a big game tonight. I think it's more important for the Jets to win than the Niners. I think the Niners will be fine, but I think it's more important for the Jets to play well. Run the ball with Breece Hall. Make sure Aaron Rodgers throws the ball to Garrett Wilson. They hook up a lot tonight. Defense with Sauce Gardner, if they can shut down that offense of San Francisco, that'd be good. I think tonight is more important for the Jets to win than the Niners. In my personal opinion, my pick tonight, I like the Jets 24-20. So that's going to do it for what I'm calling this NFL Extra. I hope you enjoyed my takes. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what you think about the season. Who's your pick for Super Bowl? Hope you enjoyed the games this past weekend and hope you enjoy the game tonight. If you like this content, please subscribe to the channel. You're going to see a lot more stuff from me going forward. I'm going to post a lot of content. NFL, college football, tennis, wrestling. It's going to be a lot of more content on this channel that I'm rebranding. If you like this video, give me a like. Helps the video get to the search engines and people seeing it, which would be really appreciative from me. Share this channel around. Again, I'm going to post a lot more content on this channel than I did before. Trying to get my sports stuff out there a lot more than I previously did. I want to make sure this is a consistent uploads for this channel. I'm going to do my best that I can, schedule-wise. And thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you hanging out. Hope you enjoyed the ride I'm going to take you on. And thank you so much for joining me today. See you next time. See what happens tomorrow after the Jets and Niners play. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Not a long video, but a shorter video. Maybe a quick recap. Thanks again. Greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the game.